Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. If you could have a seat, that would be great. So now you're fed. Now you've had a chance to think about what we talked about this morning. And now we're moving on to the training portion of our program. We have 4 great speakers coming up who are going to help you with different tactical aspects of marketing. Our next speaker is a little different from the others in that she's not a researcher.
First of all, thank you all for having me today. Thank you, Dana. I appreciate it. Thank you, Green Book. I do want to say that usually I am speaking to much smaller audiences, so please be kind to me. Usually my audiences are at the university level and they're quite small. So if I start looking a little nervous, just smile and wave and feel a lot better. I appreciate it. I'm a writer by trade. I work for a very small advertising agency. I have a couple different clients and contacts that I do. What I really do is I help with branding, I help with strategy, I help with making your communications more effective, stronger, and today I'm going to talk about value proposition. Let's see if this works. Hey, there I am. So value proposition, what is it? Do you need one? How do you craft one? Because we heard value proposition a couple times this morning, which I was quite grateful for. Because I think that value propositions are almost a core that everyone needs. If you understand what your value proposition is, you understand what you're bringing to the table, then you can communicate it and communicate it clearly. So you're going to hear a lot about value proposition. You're going to hear a lot about communicating clearly today. I'll answer all of your questions later, but I'm also going to give you 5 steps so that, and we're going to have a little practice since this is a training session. So if you don't have a paper or a tablet or something, later I'll instruct you to get it out. We'll just try a quick little exercise, all right? When I am talking and working with clients, most of the successful people that I work with understand what a value proposition is. You know, somebody would call me and say, hey, I need an ad or I need a brochure. But what they really need first is to understand what they want to say. A value proposition is a roadmap, especially for the creative people. So I'm going to talk a lot from the edge of the creative. We had the fabulous Keena's Mustard people speaking, and they understand that. And I think that if you're not working with a value proposition or you're not really honing in what your communications are from a creative standpoint, you might be wasting your money. I hate to say that. So, value proposition gives you a consistent message for your company, your product, or your service. And I have consistent message in boldface because we want to always be consistent. Now, that doesn't mean that you have 2 or 3 or 4 audiences, but you've got to be consistent always to that audience. So I'm going to just use big names that we all know. Nike. They have tennis, they have football, they have kids wear, but they're always consistent in their niche.
Yeah, I'm picking up another room.
Yes, that is working. This gives you a value proposition gives you a solid foundation. So whether you're doing PR, content, website, advertising, even your sales materials or your sales call, the value proposition is going to be your foundation. And it's also your conversation starter. Because if you can get them intrigued, as a writer, I like every word to count. So if you can get them intrigued with a really well-written value proposition, you are off to the races. The value proposition should have you say, tell me more. It should intrigue them. It should get them going. You don't want to say, yeah, okay. Again, I'm going to point to Lucy, who had such a great presentation this morning. You have all that grayness. So what you want to do is stand out from that gray and tell me more. So everybody is asking, Stephanie, please get to the point. What is a value proposition? So a value proposition is a clear statement of tangible results a customer gets from using your product or your services. Now, when I was doing research to get ready for this speech today, I did a bunch of different research, plus the stuff, plus the stuff that I already know. And everybody has slightly different definitions. So take this and use it for what you will, but being clear and tangible results, those are the key words in there that you want to say. And I have clear, tangible results on my next slide. So let me say that again. It's clear and it's tangible results that your customer gets. So you want to be very specific. Now, you've probably said, isn't this my elevator speech, Stephanie? I have this. No, it is not your elevator speech. Your elevator speech is usually directed to a broad audience because you don't know who you're going to get in the elevator with. It's not directed specifically to them. Not necessarily to your, I'm so lost, sorry guys, or unique selling proposition. Not necessarily aimed to your target, thank you. And I think of a value proposition and an elevator speech and your unique selling proposition as kind of three sisters. They all work together, all right? But don't get them confused because then I think you'll kind of get off the rails. Unique selling proposition for a creative person, especially a writer, is the one thing that sets you apart. You want to boil it down, and I think somebody else this morning said, boil it down to what you really mean and what you're really going to bring. Back to value proposition. It describes your target buyer. So when you're writing your value proposition or when somebody's writing it for you, you want to describe your target buyer. And we'll go over these in a couple different ways. The problem you can solve and a reason why you're better. I like them short, specific, and simple. Now, short is a relative term because you have to get in what, and you'll see a couple of examples in a minute, but you'll have to get into exactly what you want to say. So it might take a little bit more of a phrasing or a couple different words, but you don't want to go on and on and on so that you have so many words. Some people like one sentence, some people say, I have to have something, but what you really want is the essence of what you can do for your clients. So, and figure that out, because that's really important. And again, if you're selling your company, your service, your product, what's the essence? And it's not the feature, but it's the benefit that you're going to bring them. You also want to set yourself apart. When you're crafting this, try a bunch of different value propositions. You want to write it and write it again and then write it again, or else have your folks write it again. If you have somebody working for you that you've hired and they write one value proposition and bring it back, I would tell them to go back again. I write it again, I write 5, I write 10, I write 15. I read it at night, I read it in the morning, I read it in the afternoon, I bump it against something else. Again, this is your roadmap, and if you've got this down, you can craft almost any kind of other sales materials, any marketing materials, anything that you need if you've got it. Value proposition also creates interest. So again, there's your words. As a writer, I'm really interested in making every word mean something. So you really want to get words that are going to mean something to your group, or your audience rather. It also has a strong differential between you and your competitors. Sometimes when I'm talking at the university level, I'm talking about Coke and Pepsi. They're both brown sugar water, okay? But they've both decided that they're going to market themselves, and they both have different value propositions. So even if you've got a research company and you've got a research company and you've got a research company, find something that's different. And if you can't find anything that's different, create something, because you can. You can. You want to align your business operations more closely to your customer needs. Again, listen to your customers. We heard that before this morning. Think about what your customers need. And focus on your customer's point of view, because they definitely will have one. So you've got to think about what they need from you. What a value proposition isn't. It's not a headline. Although you can write a great headline if you have a really solid value proposition. Your tagline isn't a value proposition either. I heard somebody say this morning, they were talking about tagline. Everybody has a tagline, and as a writer and a creative person, I think you can use them to great effect, but that's not your value proposition. Again, though, if you have the val prop, you get the tagline. And a list of features and benefits are not your value proposition either, so you want to step away from that, right? So again, back to the essence is, what are you, it's that old Janet Jackson song, you know, what are you doing for me lately? What are you going to bring to the table? All right, so this is the funny part of my speech. I'm going to illustrate what you're bringing to the table and what val prop is in a different way. Before Match.com, before Tinder and OkCupid, there was Match.com, right? And when you went on Match.com, you had to write a little synopsis about yourself because you've got 500 people that are in your, you're smiling because you know this, don't you? Well, wait to see that. So I really see a Match.com profile as a value prop. So this is my picture and my little Match.com value prop. It says a lot of good stuff about me. It tells who I want to date. It tells why I'm different than other girls because I don't care about helmet hair. And you're going to have a lot of fun. So that's your outcome of that. So I like that picture. It's kind of fun. So that's kind of, it's just like dating. You want to find the company that's right for you. You want to find somebody that relates to you. You want to stand out and say, date me, use my product, use my service, I'm better than you. So stand out by saying why you're special to this particular audience. Focus on what they really need and want. Here's a couple examples, and you're going to see a ton of different examples. These are written for different clients, for different needs. They're long, they're short. I wrote 3 out of 4 of them. But these just, and I'll leave these on a minute so everybody can kind of absorb it. But what they really do is they've broken it down and made sure that you know exactly what you're doing. I'm catching up on my paper, sorry guys. Now here's one from a totally different company. This is a nursing and a rehabilitation company. And again, I work with all kinds of different companies. I've worked with marketing research, I've worked with consultants, I've worked with construction groups, all that kind of stuff. But again here, I've really listed out, and there's only 2 sentences in this value prop, but I've really listed out what I'm doing, what they're doing, what they need, and what you're going to get. And the last sentence is crucial, to improve their lives. You really want to, that's my promise in that one. This is a slightly shorter one. They've got the triple the market and cut marketing costs in half. They've actually got really specifics in there. A lot of times my clients don't need those kind of specifics. Sometimes numbers will work with people. Again, figure out what you need when you're working the value proposition for your company. And last but not least, this is a tried and true method of writing a value proposition. That's why I kind of broke it down like that. So you've got to the buyers and prospects, you're actually talking to who they are. You've got the company and services, what you solve, what you do, and then the results. And I'll leave that up so everybody can kind of take one look at that. So now I'm going to do the 5 steps to write your own val prop. So if you guys want to take a minute to get a piece of paper, if you're interested, or a tablet or whatever, and I'll kind of walk you through a little bit. I've got a couple different ways to do this. Step 1, and again, this is going to follow that very last example that you just saw. So what your company does, not how you do it, but what you do and what you're doing for the audience. And this slide will come in about 3 different times, so don't panic if you don't get all of it the first time, all right? Knowing who your target audience and buyer is. So that's kind of the second part of your crafting. Figure out what their main problem is. Talk about your expertise with that problem. How are you going to definitely get that done? And again, explain why you're different from all the other people out there. So now's the time where you can go ahead and start writing. What do you, your product, your service does? Don't get mired down in features, go for the benefits. And I've got a couple examples here. So you make college students smarter. You help your client make a bit bigger profit. You save money on technology, or you get insights. So again, we're trying to be really specific when you're starting to craft this. Next, think about who your target is. And again, be specific. I love specifics. As a writer, specifics are just so important to me because it just sets you apart all the time. Here's some examples for step 2. So when you're writing down your specifics, interior designers who specialize in big commercial buildings. Notice I didn't write interior designers. I wrote that they specialize in big commercial buildings. Or content managers. Okay, content managers. Lots of people are writing content managers, but we want to know that they build their audience in the 24 to 54 demographic. So think about it. Step 3, as you're writing. Figure out what your customer's main problem is. So you're writing this for yourself. What's your customer's main problem? And how are you going to solve it? How is your research company or your special software going to solve their problem? Everybody looks very industrious. Ah, there's my hint. Specific sell. Love specifics. Step 4. Talk about what you can do with their challenges. Again, I have some examples to help you guys follow. So ABC will apply the latest technology, including digital. We understand the needs of physicians. Or we'll investigate and give you a detailed analysis. And lastly, we're going to explain how you're different from your competitors. So find that one thing, back to my Coke and Pepsi brown sugar water. If you look at Pepsi, they're very extreme sports. And Coke is more having fun with your friends and family. They found a specific. And the other thing too is, when you find these things, stick to them. I don't want you to wishy-wash all the time. If you've got a value proposition, everybody should have it on their desk. Everybody should understand.
I gotta go get my mic.
Now, you may go through a cycle where you're going to have to reevaluate where you are, but a value proposition, again, just makes so much sense to base everything about marketing, sales, advertising. Here's the steps again, just to give you guys a quick look. Wow, that went so fast. I think I'm done.
Okay, we have a few minutes for questions. Thank you.
I promise. Any advice? One of the problems a lot of market research companies have when marketing is that we're generalists. We have a lot of different product lines, but we don't necessarily call them different products. We just serve a number of different audiences. Any advice on how to market in that kind of environment? Because when we went through the 5 steps, I thought, who am I talking to? Because I've got very different answers, but I don't necessarily have 3 different brands.
But maybe you should think about that. Maybe you should really think about having 3 different brands. If I was consulting with you, I'd sit down and I'd ask you a bunch of questions. I'd do my research. But I really think it's worth having a value proposition maybe for your big 3 guys. And they'll be slightly different. I don't think it's a huge investment in your time, and I think it would really help you kind of focus on where your efforts go. So if you have, I'm just going to use something like I was talking about before. If you have basketball shoes versus tennis equipment versus swimming goggles, those are 3 different audiences. So I think you definitely would have to look at how you're going to speak to the tennis people, who may be a much different demographic than the swimming goggle people. So I know it sounds like a little bit extra work, but I think it's definitely worth it. Does that answer your question? Thank you so
More
much.
questions? Any on this side of the room?
That side of the room is very attentive. They probably got it.
This side's beating you.
I think you got it. We got it. I think so. Good. You're in that room if I need you? Yeah.
Hi. How do you balance the jargon versus the simple terms? I mean, good ad is different from effective brand communications. And
Yeah.
so as far as creating something that makes you seem smart versus is very clear and doesn't make people do work in order to figure out exactly what you're trying to say. I mean, I like semicolons a lot. Do those work in this situation, or should I possibly just stick to the 5-word sentences?
I once dated a boy on Match.com who knew how to use semicolons. It was very sexy to me. But seriously, I think you're always better off being simple. I think you're always better off being direct. I think you're always better off making sure that every single word counts. If you're getting around a sentence, people are you're kind of losing them a little bit. Does that answer your question? I think simple, getting away, you said the word jargon, and I had an interior kind of, because lots of people get stuck in corporate speak. Lots of people get, and then, and everybody, and I think you start to sound like everybody. So I think you're better off being short, sweet, and simple. Crafting, and it could be the difference between using the word solution and saying, I absolutely can make your feet feel better. A solution is nothing to me, but really being specific and saying, I can make your feet feel better is it's going to resonate with the right people. Let's say that. Does that help you at all?
It does.
Okay.
Stephanie, I have a question. Once you have your value proposition, what do you do with it?
Well, first you tattoo it on the inside of your left arm. No. Once you have a value proposition, I think that you, let's say we're all marketing directors in here, or for the most part. I think that your marketing director is the keeper of the value proposition, and I think everything trues back to the value proposition. So I think that's what informs all of your content. If you say, hey, it's time to have a new website, get that value proposition and true it up. If you're going to have new sales, a sales meeting, get that proposition and true it up. So, Dana, does that answer your question a little bit? I think it's kind of my flag that I start with. It's my roadmap, it's my flag, it's just where I'm always going to go. It's my true North Star, if you will.
It sounds like getting buy-in from the rest of the organization is important too.
Oh, definitely. You're not doing this alone. You're not sitting in, well, I am. I'm usually sitting alone. But you definitely are working with everybody. You want input. You want input for your sales, input from your CEO. Absolutely. It's always a collaborative effort.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
The USP, could you define what that is and what makes a good one? Is it somewhere in the 5 characteristics we've just written, something
You know,
different?
that's part of the Three Sisters, I believe. Your USP is the one thing that makes you different. Now, if it falls into the value proposition, that's fine. But I don't think to me, I think it lives in a separate bucket. I don't think because they're sisters, they're friends, they're living together, they're having dinner together, all that kind of stuff. But I don't think necessarily they're triplets, and I don't necessarily think they're all the same people like Sybil. Does that answer your question?
Is it one word?
Your USP is usually, sure, it can be if you want it to be, but my USP for my dating thing would be I'm fun. That's, if I'm gonna have one thing, if Kirk O'Connor is gonna put a gun to my head and say, Stephanie, what's the one thing that people need to know about you? I'm fun to be around. The end. I'm not gonna go into that I ski, that I don't worry about helmet head, all that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
All right, thanks guys.